Hello, it's Sarah from Hardcover Hearts, and I'm here with my week of reading wrap up. This is where I talk about books I finished, books that I'm currently reading, and then what's possible. So I don't do TBRs, but I do like to keep a pile of possibilities, as Kazen from Always Doing had made mention on Instagram for one of my posts, which I thought was brilliant. So uh, I call it also call it a mood reading roulette, where I just kind of get a bunch of books together, and then I just allow my fancy to direct me to what the next book is. So before I jump in, I need to clarify why I'm growing a forest behind me. This is not normal. This will decrease as soon as I get my new desk, which is on order. My husband has taken away my old one in anticipation, and therefore I needed a place to put it. So, yeah, this is a lot. So, thanks for, hopefully it's not too distracting. So let's just jump to it. The first thing that I was able to finish, I didn't finish a lot this week, which was very frustrating. I had a very, very busy week at work. But what I did finish, I really enjoyed. So the first thing was I finished an audiobook, and I found myself in that very unusual situation where I had about 2 hours of just mindless drudgery work that I had to do at work, and I needed something to keep me occupied during that time, because the time would have gone horribly. And so I was looking for an audiobook. I couldn't find anything that really piqued my interest, and I really wanted to jump into Women in Translation Month. And even though I know the Women in Translation Readathon that's being hosted by Matthew Sharapa and Kendra Winchester is not until later in the month, I wanted to get a head start, because I'm really interested in works in translation, and specifically works by women in translation. So I jumped on Twitter, as one does, and sent out an SOS, and so many people answered it, which was fantastic, but I couldn't find the books that they were suggesting in audio format from my libraries. And so I did get one message from Britta Bowler. Thank you, Britta. And she said, hey, she mentioned 2 books, and one of them was The Elegance of the Hedgehog by Muriel Barbery. Now, I already had this, obviously, in physical copy. I just hadn't gotten around to it. So I immediately jumped on my library digital holds and found it. And because it's a backlist, it was available for audio. And this is, so good. I don't know why I didn't read this earlier. This is everything I love. Cantankerous, really wickedly smart, very, very funny, very self-reflective women characters. In this case, there's a little girl who's incredibly smart, incredibly precocious, very thoughtful for her age, but she's acting out, and she's got a plan that's a horrible plan, but she's determined she's going to enact it. And she's living with disdain for everyone around her in that prepubescent way. And then there's an older woman, Renee, who is the concierge at this home that it's like a hotel, or like a big apartment building. And she's the concierge, and she purposely downplays her intelligence because she doesn't want people to really know how smart she is, because she's just the concierge. And so these 2 characters come together in interesting ways, and they're spurred by the introduction of a new person who moves into the building. Fantastic. I absolutely adored it. The audio was fantastic. The woman who was Renee sounded like Lauren Bacall. She had that kind of deeper, raspier voice. Oh, it was just, fantastic. And I usually don't like kid actors in audio. That usually gets me. But she did okay. Because Renee, the woman who read Renee's portions, were so strong, I could get through the child actor portions. So yeah, this is a Sarah book of Sarah books. It's literary. There's just all this talk of intelligence in women and the place in the world and being interested beyond what other people are and being isolated for it. It's so good. So thank you, Britta, and everyone who recommended this. This was phenomenal. The next thing I read was Good Talk. And this is a memoir and conversations. This is by Mira Jacob. And this was so beautiful. I've seen this on a bunch of lists, and I went to my local library and they had it. And I was kind of surprised because I think it's pretty popular right now. So I just grabbed it. And it is a visual, almost a graphic novel, but not quite either. And it's a beautiful story of this woman, and it's autobiographical. So it's about her and it's about identity. And it opens with her talking with her son, and her son is of mixed race. She's married. She is an Indian American. Her family came from India, and they moved to Arizona, I think, some place like that, and Scottsdale or something like that. And she's living in New York, and she meets a man that she falls in love with, and he's Jewish, from New York. I think he's from New York City. And they fall in love, they get married, and they have a kid. And the kid starts asking her all of these questions. And it's post 9/11, and it's Trump, and it's through the election of Donald Trump. And it forces her to answer her young son's questions in a way that doesn't promote fear, but at the same time having her start to deal with her fears of what her identity means, and are they at risk? What does it mean to deal with racism and to prepare your child to deal with racism? And how do you deal with in-laws that love Trump? Ooh, God, it was such a timely, well done book. I highly recommend it. It was fantastic. And then the last thing that I actually completed was the Chimes of a Lost Cathedral. And this is the second book in the revolution of Mariana M. This is from Janet Finch. And I really enjoyed the first one. I thought it was it's like this big sweeping life story of this woman who gets caught up in the Russian Revolution and kind of goes through all of these huge events, and it's told in a sweeping form of what's happening in Russia. At the same time, her personal connection into some of these events, but also her disillusionment and her desire. Where does she have to go along with it because she has to survive? And when does she stand firm to her beliefs, and what are her beliefs, and how have they changed and grown as she gets new information and she takes it in? I thought it was very, very well done. My only complaint with this was that it's the second volume, and this is a huge volume. They just jump you right in as if you remember all of the characters, all of the relationships. And so you really, I at least, and it could be me because my memory is not very good, I was a little lost at who some of the people were and some of those finer details that were just kind of assumed. So that made it very difficult. I think it's great if you're reading them back to back, but it almost felt like it was an artificial cut, and we were left trying to figure out who these people were and what was the connection. So a little more backstory that reminded you of who these people were and how they came into her life and what their meaning would have been incredibly helpful. But I still gave it a 3. Okay, current reads. So I'm so excited by this. This is going to make my weekend. Ruth Ware's new book came out, and it's the Turn of the Key, and I've already started it. It literally popped into my library because I'd had it on hold, pre-hold, before it even got released, and it finally opened up for me. And so I've been listening to the audio. Oh, Ruth Ware does it again. So this is so far so great. This is a story of a woman who's trying to become an au pair, a live-in nanny for this family. It opens with she's writing a letter to a lawyer that she's begging to take her case because she did not kill that child. And you find out that she was hired to go to this very, very remote location and take care of these kids, and a very, very wealthy family, and the house. So you get in all these stories, you have like some creepy house. Well, this house is creepy, and it's creepy in a specific way because it's a smart house. So everything is technologically set up, and it's one of those like touchless things, tells you when the temperature is controlled by voice, and keyless. There's no key to get into the house. There's an app, and there's cameras all over. So just the perfect setup. I'm so looking forward to just taking this on a walk and just listening to it. This will be done very soon. I should slow it down instead of speed up like I normally do audiobooks. So I'm excited by that. And I'm also continuing with Celestial Bodies. And so this is Jokha Alharthi's Man Booker International Award-winning book. I've said this a few times and I always forget. I told you I have a bad memory. Marilyn Booth is the one who translated this. I'm probably going to hold this and continue and finish this up for Women in Translation Readathon that's coming up at the end of the month. Then I also got a library hold for Magic for Liars. And this is a fantasy book by Sarah Gaily. And I like it because it's set here in the Bay Area, and it's a little Harry Potter-ish. The setup is that this woman is a private detective, and she gets asked to take on a case, and the case is set in a school, and it's a school for magic. And her twin sister teaches at that school or is affiliated in some way with that school, and she has been estranged from her twin sister. Her sister has magic and she does not. And so magic exists in this world. She doesn't have it, and it's our normal world, but there's this other element too. And it just sounded whimsical and fun, and reading it was really great. So I'm going to continue with that. Then I have my 2 buddy reads that I'm continuing to make progress, but this is paced, so I won't go crazy and finish it. So the Goldfinch, reading the Goldfinch with a slew of people. If you want to join in, there's still time. Jump in the. I'll put the link to all of our plans below. But next up for next week, we're going to be checking in on the 14th and the 15th. So depending on what time zone you're in. So what we find is that it's good if the people maybe in Europe check in on the 15th, and that allows us on the 14th to have caught up, and we can usually have a good conversation if that's the case. And we're going to read up to chapter 6. And so the first section was 1 through 3. I'm just going to be posting a video of that little chat up in really close to this video going up. And then next up through chapter 6. So please join us if you are so inclined, and we'll be talking about it in the comments of the check-in video. Then the other one that I'm reading and on a buddy read is Chait Atkinson's A God in Ruins. And this is already, it's just, buddy reads are so great. You just see so many things that you would normally not see, and hearing other people's perspective is remarkable. So this is A God in Ruins. Really happy to be reading this. And also I'll be reading it through the month. And then there's just so much coming up. So I mentioned Women in Translation Month. I pulled together a whole bunch of books that is making up my pile of possibilities. And I might do a separate video just kind of talking through some of these. And then it's also August in Africa. And I was raised in Mozambique as a little girl, and so I'm very partial to African literature. And so I have grabbed a few books that I've been meaning to get to that I think I'm going to try to squeeze in here. So first is Couto, and this is Rain and Other Stories in the short story collection. Couto is from Mozambique, so I'm really excited to read that. Next up is Lament for the Fallen by Gavin Chait. And this is like a sci-fi Western African novel. It's kind of a fantasy sci-fi type thing. And that cover, isn't that amazing? And then I've never read Girls at War, and this is by Chinua Achebe. So hopefully I'll get to at least one of those during the month, if not multiple. So a lot. All right, that's it for me. I hope you have fantastic reading plans, whatever they are. I hope you're reading great things. If you're reading something especially amazing, and especially if you think it's something that I would love, I would hate to know that there's other books like this out there that I haven't gotten to. Please feel free to comment below in the comments, and I hope you have a great weekend. Thanks for watching. Bye.